Welcome back to the IBSP. Here's your host, Foxy New.
David Benavidez gets yet another week, and look, let's break it down honestly and objectively as possible. And David Benavidez, according to Mauricio Suleiman, the president of the WBC, is extending his deadline for David Benavidez to make a decision based on whether he's going to enforce his mandatory at 168 or 175. So he gets yet another 1 week decision. And the one thing that puzzles me is, why do you need another week if Canelo's the fight you want and Canelo's the fight you need? And that's the guy you need. And you can't go to sleep without thinking of Canelo. And you wake up every morning thinking about Canelo. And you're busting some cheeks, you're thinking about Canelo. You're eating your Cheerios and you're thinking about Canelo. Why do you need another week? You remember, this is not his first extension. This is not his first extension. This is his second extension. You remember his first, they've already approved a 2-week extension for David Benavidez, the WBC did, back in June. So now, this man gets a second extension. Why do you need all these extensions? You should have enforced your mandatory. You remember, David Benavidez could have enforced his mandatory back in March. So he's taking all this time to decide whether he's going to enforce his mandatory or not. Understand this, David. Understand this, all the David Benavidez fans. David Benavidez cannot move to 175, refuse to enforce his mandatory at 168, and claim Canelo's ducking him. That's impossible. That's impossible. So you have to understand, if you do not enforce this mandatory, you can never say Canelo's ducking you. That's point blank, period. I don't care how many extensions you get. I don't care how much you talk. You can never claim this man's ducking you. You had an opportunity to enforce a mandatory to make him drop his belt, and you decided to move up and wait. You can never do that. That can't happen. Now, at the end of the day, when you look at the situation, you see Canelo Alvarez in negotiation to fight all these alleged fighters, Edgar Berlanga, possibly Errol Spence, Chris Eubank Jr. None of those fights are pay-per-view fights. None of those are big, attractive fights for Canelo. We understand that. And when you look at Canelo's history in his past, he's shown that he's not afraid to take risks, take chances. The David Benavidez fight is the fight that people have been asking for years. So that's the fight hopefully we get next. Hopefully both of these guys are negotiating on some level. Hopefully that's what's happening. Right now, you see David Benavidez asking for multiple extensions. Canelo Alvarez seems to be negotiating with everybody but David Benavidez. Hopefully all of this is some smokescreen, and the big fight that we all want, the fight that we all need, is being negotiated behind the scenes. We shall see. But if it's not, and that fight's not on the table, David Benavidez better enforce that mandatory, or he's the real coochie.